I think he wiped the floor with Trump. He was measured. He was calm. He showed resolve. Welcome back to
Ami's house. I laughed so hard. After the first question that they asked, they did a shot of his face, and I laughed like I was watching a comedy. I couldn't. It was such a genuine, sincere laugh at how absurd and lost.
Well, no. Actually, let me say this. Let me just push back for a second, Michael. I think Biden crushed it. I think he wiped the floor with Trump. He was measured. He was calm. He showed resolve. He showed maturity. I am so relieved, at least, that the media coverage isn't that. Because you could have so seen the spin room just all of a sudden going, listen, what I saw up there was a kind man. What I saw up there was a man of principle. And they're not doing that. They're going, okay, we can't. I can't pretend anymore. Oh my
I saw an amazing tweet. It said, I've been saying this for a long time. I think we need 2 candidates who are older.
Cenk Uygur, I saw a clip, and the only thing he's ever said that I kind of agree with, he was like, so the split screen was the worst thing for Biden because it showed his, if it wasn't split screen in the broadcast, the second it started, and he goes like,
yeah. And when he's smiling, he's just like,
no, this. And then when his opening statement, it would tell they might have jacked him up with drugs right beforehand. So the first question, he just starts going, well, it's just folks, COVID, what they're doing with COVID asylum. And it was, Trump, I feel like, didn't have to respond to any question the whole time. He could have just said, can you guys see what's going on here? Look at this guy. Yeah. What are we doing? Did anybody just hear what I just heard? Eventually he got to it. He's like, I don't know what he just said. I don't understand anything he just said. I don't think he knows what he just said either. But if he went too hard, maybe it would have looked bad, and he didn't have to do that because it would have looked like he was badgering an old man.
It was perfect. Yeah. I think whoever coached him to say let him make his own errors. Yeah. Don't call it out. And eventually he couldn't help himself. But I thought it was so strong for him to just kind of be quiet and let Biden not finish his sentences.
And the most powerful thing was when Trump would go, as Biden would talk, he would go like this. All of a sudden he would turn and you would just know, like, oh God. Now here's an interesting take that I was talking about with somebody. The moderators did a really good job. They really did. It was pretty fair and measured, and they stayed on point. They kept the conversation going. Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. I sense that the motivation and impetus behind putting a mute switch on them was to prevent Trump from interrupting and causing the chaos that happened last time, right? And they're like, this will be great. We're going to control Donald Trump. What that ended up doing was allowing Biden to meander and basically be his own worst enemy, because I suspect that if there was no mute button and Trump interrupted, it would have made Trump look worse, and he would have saved Biden from himself several times. But he didn't, and Biden ended up just being able to keep going. And then you're just like, oh, wow, this tactic backfired completely and helps Trump tremendously, because now Biden is forced to keep going and then stop being able to read from the page in front of him. And then you're like, oh, he doesn't know what's happening. And he's just like, and that's why the folks, we killed Medicare.
Yeah, we finally beat Medicare.
That's right. He beat Medicare. He beat it to death.
And instead of making fun of him, which would have been a bad look, he just sort of went off what he was saying, which I thought was really strong. And also just to point out, I'm someone who, when Trump was elected, was afraid for his life. I was in that group.
Afraid for whose life?
My own life. I thought it was the end of the country. I was very anxious. I hated Trump all throughout his presidency. I'm still not sure if I would vote for him, if I could actually pull the trigger and do that.
That's how you've been feeling all this time? Yeah.
Yeah. That is how I feel. But even I was I find him more appealing right now than this guy. It was physically
cringy
uncomfortable to watch.
Cringy.
Yeah. Scary. It was scary.
Sad, very sad. You're just like, but also, and so obvious. Like, I was like, look at this. Like, he done like, and Trump's like, I don't know, I don't know what he. I can't even. I don't know what he just said. I don't think he knows what he said either. He doesn't know what he's saying. He doesn't know what he's saying. He's like, don't mind my old friend over here. That debate last night was the equivalent to me of Trump arguing with an old heckler at a town hall. You're a loser. Get him out of here, folks. Get him out of here. Like he was just like, you're the loser. You're the loser. Or like at a kiddish, some old guy just mouthing off.
He kept saying the idea that I would. That was his like refrain,
and he was just like,
which also made him kind of seem like an old man.
And he was like, the idea that number one, look, the idea that we have a great country, we're one of the best countries in the world, strongest military in the world. The idea, number one, number two, we have passed infrastructure bills, $50 million that we were able to accomplish for African Americans and senior citizens with seeking asylum, and we killed Medicare on the first day of COVID.
You did kill Medicare.
Yeah, you did beat it. You beat it to death. It's just like, it didn't take much, and in the way that Trump's restraint from not going hard, in a way, like all Trump had to do is be somewhat normal and show us decent command of reality.
Yeah.
And one has to wonder, now I want to go to the conspiracy part of it. Is this like they knew he would do this so they can make the case to pull him out of the race? Tell me.
I think there are people within the administration who are kind of. Well, there's two things going on. I spoke to someone who works with very high net worth individuals, and they have access to Biden, and he's been told by his clients, like, because I brought up like he's too old, he can't speak, and he's like, no, I'm telling you, my clients say he's completely fine. I'm personally not worried at all about it. So there's that going on, but then you also hear people within the administration are kind of sounding the alarm. So yeah, I wonder if someone was like, this is the only way to get the word out that this is a problem.
The chatter is like, we held this debate early so everyone could see what we see, and then we'll be on board with supporting replacing him. But I think that would also, just like every attempt to get Trump out has backfired. If they do even that, people are going to call like bullshit and say, no, this is, you're just, you knew you couldn't beat Trump any which way. He's not the guy, and we're not going to fall for it anymore. And I don't think it would help, so either way, but I don't know, like for everyone to just, this is like what everybody's known, and everyone hasn't bought into. There's a clip of him being escorted off stage. Did you see that?
Yes. Yeah.
Jill holding him off, like holding his arm, right. And like.
There's a few weird things. It's weird that he ran for president in 2020, and no one's heard him. So throughout the campaign trail and his presidency, no one's heard him speak this much. Which is kind of crazy. Yeah. And then the other thing is everyone has already sort of known this. We've all just kind of been like ignoring it or kind of hoping it wasn't true. And now you can't do that anymore, which is weird. Like it's weird for like the whole country to come online at the same time together. It was like a.
Yeah, not the whole country. It reminds me of like the COVID thing where everyone was like, hey, we shouldn't do these shutdowns. And then Democrats a year later were like, I think probably shutting down the schools might have been an overstep. And we're like, we knew that,
But even on CNN, the Democrats and the operatives were all saying this is a problem.
That's what I mean about like during COVID when they all were like, this is the thing we need to do. And everyone was screaming from the rooftops at that. The common sense folk who can see things for what it is. That's what Trump kept doing last night. He's like, they know better and the people know better too. They know what they're seeing. They know this is a fraud. They know this is ridiculous. They know that case was a total disgrace. They know it. And that was kind of a powerful idea that he was like, the people know what I'm seeing. And I think it speaks to Trump's ability to not tell the truth, but say what people are feeling. The emotional truth. In other words, Scott Adams used to talk about whenever Trump speaks and he makes these statements, it's not that they're factually true, but they're emotionally true. They're exaggerated. They're not based on necessarily the exact numbers and the data. But the difference between Trump lies and, say, Biden lies is that Trump's lies are based on emotional sentiments and realities that people do feel. He may exaggerate, there were millions of people celebrating on 9/11. We saw the tapes, we saw the things, and people would be like, that's such a lie. But they do have a concern in a sense that the support for this terrorism is more widespread than it's being presented. And so Trump is exaggerating something that people, or pouring gasoline on something that people already kind of feel and resonate with.
Mhm.
And when Biden lies or Obama lies or Hillary, they are going against what people feel and trying to tell you that you're dumber. Like they're trying to tell you you're missing it. It's like COVID is actually this problem that we all need to shut down for. And you're like, yeah, but I'm not seeing kids dying in droves. Why do we need to shut down schools? No, it is a concern. And when Trump says it, he goes, we all know it. It's ridiculous. It's a China virus. We know it's the China virus. And people sense that, wait, did this come from a lab in China with nefarious intentions or not? And the Democrats are saying, that's a total lie. Like they're trying to get you to go against your common sense, which can make people crazy. It's like that sane in an insane world feeling. That's what Democrats perpetuate from lies. Right. Trump doesn't always tell the truth. I'm not saying that, but when he what his form of misinformation is exaggerations upon emotional truths people feel.
The abortion debate portion I thought was a good example where he said, he's like, they're trying to kill babies in the ninth month. Nobody thinks that's okay, which is true. I think like when you look at polls, most people in this country don't think that it's okay to do a late term abortion. Even staunch Roe v. Wade supporters think that that's problematic. Right. And again, and then Biden I think responded well, where he's like, that's not true. We're not taking babies out of their mothers in the 9th month. But regardless, he hit on something that is true, which is that I'm actually not so far off from what most reasonable people think.
Trump said
like
that.
I'm more in the middle than like some far right.
You're the radicals. You're the radicals.
Yeah,
I support Roe. I support Roe v. Wade. We're trying to give it back to Roe, and when I'm president, I'm gonna bring it back because that's what. Show my legal show. Support when he tried to get passionate in those couple. I support Roe. Yeah, he's like, you're the radicals, and I don't know the policies as in the details as far as late term abortions, but under Roe v. Wade, my understanding, and maybe this is just the right wing talking point that I've heard, but in certain states, if they wanted to allow it legally, they could under Roe, because it guarantees a protection of under that statute to say that women have a right to an abortion constitutionally under this Privacy Act. And that's what a lot of legal scholars, even pro-choice legal scholars, disagreed with, that under the right to against legal search and seizures, you have a right to privacy and therefore you can have an abortion. And he was saying that's a radical idea. Legal scholars everywhere agreed. And that's not untrue, that a lot of people agreed, like, this is bad policy, bad legal understanding of the Constitution, that you don't have a constitutionally protected right to an abortion. And now the idea is it goes back to the states to vote on it. In certain states, they're doing certain things. I believe in the exceptions. He tried to say, like, I believe in the exceptions. I believe in all that. Yeah. And people have to follow their heart. And you're the one who are the radicals. And he flipped that whole thing, which is his least.
Follow your heart. I remember that. Yeah. That now was I thought a very smart and strange thing for him to say, but kind of like resonated.
Yeah.
The point for me is I watched the debate and I trust Biden and his facts more than Trump's, but he didn't communicate them to me, so I don't know them now. He couldn't verbally communicate what he wanted to say. So regardless, that's not a success. Do you think I wonder whether Biden is actually cognitively all there, but he has Parkinson's or something that makes it difficult for him to communicate or to literally speak or to translate the thoughts in his head, where he is 100% there, but he has some kind of condition that in the next few weeks is going to kind of be released to be like.
I'm no expert on how to diagnose any of this, but he seems obviously to be in cognitive decline, age-related cognitive decline, whether it's dementia as something you could diagnose or just generally the inability to communicate. Yeah.
Bill Ackman, Bill Ackman, the like activist investor who was like crazy anti-DEI. He tweeted like, "What is with Biden staring and keeping his mouth half open? Can someone please comment on this for me?" And then this Harvard doctor commented like, "I'm a Harvard doctor,
neurologist, whatever."
He's like, I can't obviously diagnose it through the TV, but everything I'm seeing screams Parkinson's to me."
Yes, there's something there,
which I'd never heard before.
No, that is a thing in Parkinson's where you lose your affect a little bit. That's something that happens, and I've heard that before. That with Parkinson's, you lose that sort of like subtle, like all that stuff kind of starts to like early onset you start to just droop a little. And I've seen where it's called something. It has a medical term, but it happens. What?
Aphasia?
I don't know.
Aphasia?
Here we go again, talking out of turn.
He also couldn't move his neck. He had to move his entire body.
But even that like gaze,
in order to turn.
the signs of some kind of obvious cognitive decline, like we all see it, and it's just
but I'm saying maybe it's a physical decline and not a cognitive decline. Or it's like neurological, but it's not like he can't think through something.
Oh yeah. I don't know.
It's just he can't present.
That I guess I'm open to both of those options, but either both of those kind of make him unfit.
I agree. But
what? Cognitively, I think it's more cognitive. Like,
if he was the last human being alive who was a Democrat, like fine, you're fine enough, I suppose.
I don't know.
But there's a lot of people who could do
barely alive, though, Michael. He's barely alive. And
that's what I'm saying.
When he walked out, he pointed. He was like trying to say, that one? Was that where I'm going? He was like, but like, honestly, we all have had grandparents and experience with elderly. We've seen what this is. It's not mysterious, and it's perfectly appropriate at that age to like kind of be in that zone. It's just not appropriate to be in that zone and be president of the United States, the most stressful job in the world. It's crazy.
So let's talk about the reaction. What have you been like? What were your thoughts about how people have been responding to the debate?
So I guess I'm somewhat relieved and even a little surprised that everyone is so obviously unanimously on the same page, Republican or Democrat. A lot of the right side of center I'm seeing is like still obviously enjoying that vindication. Like the memes were going crazy last night. Like Biden staring into the afterlife from Matt Walsh was like, I think Ben Shapiro tweeted a picture and it said, "Hello, darkness, my old friend." And just like all this different stuff. It reminds me of like a year after COVID, or 2 years, 3 years, 4 years after COVID, when the article comes out in the Atlantic or wherever it was that says, masks didn't work. We realize that now. And school closures may have been a mistake. Maybe we went too far. Let's forgive each other. When 4 years earlier than that, the common sense folk were saying, obviously, this is ridiculous. Can anybody see that eating in a restaurant and going is insane? And then 4 years later, the elites in the liberal establishment all of a sudden wake up to it and say, I think we've discovered something here. Biden may be a little out of it. It just had this echo of that same feeling. It's like, yeah, we know, but they are saying it. And I could have easily seen them being so deluded that the reports could have been, what I saw up there was a good man. What I saw up there was a man with heart, a man who cares about this country, and a man who's done a lot. Let's focus on what Biden has done, not about some silly performance. Now, you are seeing some of that. Kamala Harris is saying, who cares about a 90-minute conversation? Obviously she's saying that now.
Right.
And yeah, so that's been the response. Everyone's like, oh God. But now it's more like, what are they going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I was pretty we watched the CNN after show.
Yeah, what did they say?
And I was pretty shocked that they all just came out and said it. It feels to me like one of those moments, like after 9/11. I remember, if you watched ESPN or read like Sports Illustrated, they were like, we have to stop using words like hero and destroyed and killed the competition after 9/11 in America. Like we now know what those words mean. Mm-hmm. Like it was this moment of clarity where for one moment, everyone is on the same page about what's real and what's not. Yeah. And fast forward 6 weeks and they're using those words again. Mm-hmm. It felt like that. The day after Trump won also, the Democrats were like, at the end of the day, this is our fault. We should never run Hillary. Mm-hmm. And then fast forward 3 weeks and it's fighting again. It felt like that moment where everyone was just like, you're human, right? You saw what I saw with my eyes. Cool. But so that was really encouraging and great. I have a feeling in another 3 weeks, it's going to go from this is disaster, this is nuclear, we have to replace him, to he had a bad night. He had a bad night, but we all saw he actually won on policy, and I kind of think he's just going to run. Mm-hmm. I actually kind of do.
So do I.
I think it's just going to go forward like as planned, and nothing's going to change. Yeah,
and he tried to there was a lot of tweets where like, between the nursing home patient and the convicted felon, I'm voting for the convicted felon. I think so too. I mean, if I have to predict predictions, that they're not going to pull him at the last minute and do the Hail Mary pass, but they're just going to hope to win, and then in the second term we'll figure it out once they beat Trump. But I don't think they're gonna.
That's what they said for this past election too.
I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're going to beat him.
I don't think they're going to either.
I don't think they're going to beat him.
Oh yeah, they're probably not going to be. And then also, then what's the alternative? Are they going to replace Kamala Harris? Because then, are you basically voting for Kamala Harris then?
No, they would put up like Gavin Newsom or something like that. That's what people say.
They'll ditch her as vice president,
or she would stay as the ticket, but like replace him. I don't know. Actually, maybe you have to replace the whole ticket.
You know what I'm saying? If he runs,
yeah.
After this, you have to be thinking to yourself, you're basically voting for the vice president.
I know.
In some capacity, and she's extremely unpopular. And
we want to let's talk about the passage of time. Yeah. Well,
what do you think of the last thing I want to talk about is the how this all affects Israel?
Yes.
They asked Trump, would you create an independent Palestinian state? His answer was so brilliant. Do you remember what he said? He went, "I'd have to see, but I want to go back for a second to immigration."
Yeah.
The "I'd have to see" was so.
Well, that's
of a deflection.
You have to remember something about debates, and I've learned this from doing interviews where, like, it's all an illusion. The debate, the question, the response format is an illusion. Don't be fooled. Like, he has things he wants to say. Biden has things he wants to say. They're given an allotted time. It doesn't take much to just completely ignore the question and say what you want to say. In other words, when they debate prep, they don't say, what are you going to say to this question? What's your answer? They say, remember, when they ask this, you pivot to this because this resonates, this polls, this is what we want people to take away. And it's the same as like when you're being interviewed and like you have an album to promote or a show, like whatever they ask you. So like, you know, like what's your family life like? Well, thank God my family was so supportive and they're a really great family because I was able to really work on this album. And I'm so proud of the work we've done. You know, you just take the question and then you like pivot it to what you want to talk about. And that's every question almost. And Trump said, okay, good. I'll get to that, but I want to go back for a second. It happened all the time. And people go, hey, but then very quickly they're into the next thing. And Trump said, I'd have to look at it.
And it's just such a good diversion.
Yeah.
I've never heard that particular diversion before.
I'd have to look at it.
I'm using that in my personal life all the time.
And I've learned it. You learn it in terms of like when you're having conversations and like the debate, the question doesn't matter. The time you have to speak matters. What are you going to use with that time? And they kept trying to, and eventually if the time runs out and they run the clock, then what's said has been said. Like you have 80 seconds left. Do you want to answer the question about what you would have done? Look, there's a lot to discuss there. It's very complicated. Putin and I got along very well. Like you don't have to be precise in these kinds of formats. And that's how it works. It's all an illusion.
Going back to Israel, though, for a second, I think that this, I wonder if this is the greatest thing to happen for Bibi in Israel in a couple of months at least, because I feel like Biden's power and leverage to tell Israel what to do right now, especially as of right now, I think most people think the Democrats are not winning the next election. So their leverage over America in the negotiations and in their dictating what happens and what doesn't happen, I'm sure has gone down since last night, which has to be exciting.
But he's still the commander in chief and can determine, and America's politics can determine what kind of support or lack of support Israel gets, no matter how feeble and weak you are as a leader.
True, but if you have to rate it, did it increase since last night or decrease? I would think it's decreased. Like Biden's, like meaning Israel could do something now maybe that America doesn't want them to do and feel a little bit more comfortable that A, it'll blow over in a couple months because he's out, and B, he comes off as feeble. So
well, I find it interesting. I find it interesting that they didn't spend that much time on it. Almost very, very little on the debate was focused on this huge thing that's been going on, at least in our world. Maybe I miss it.
Well, but the truth is, it's only big online. If you look at the polls of most people in America, especially young people, they actually don't care.
Yeah. Okay. So I was like, for me, it kind of highlighted maybe how much I focus on it because it matters to me, but for them, Biden's posturing last night was, I've been so pro-Israel. You have no idea. I didn't give these bombs just because they weren't effective weapons, but I I support Israel, and we need to struggle. Hamas needs to be like they didn't have so much disagreement there on at least in words,
Right.
but
Oh no! And on the thing he said, where he's like, he's basically a Palestinian. He's not even a good Palestinian.
that was so weird.
What was that?
He's basically a Palestinian. That was bizarre. That was kind of bizarre, and everyone's just like, okay, moving on.
What was he trying to
I
say?
have no idea what that meant. I just have
It
no.
was
I just have
wild.
no idea what that meant. This
so
guy's
wild.
basically a Palestinian. Maybe he was trying to say he's like putting too much pressure on Israel, or he's sympathetic to one side. But
Yeah.
nobody. There was something that flew off the tongue. Well, you're basically
Yeah.
a Palestinian.
To watch the gears in his head turn of like writing a bit is so funny.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, it's so good.
Even Jordan
It's so
Peterson
good.
tweeted say what you want. Trump's is hilarious. What did he say? I can look it up. It was funny the way Jordan Peterson put it.
Well, while you look for that, I'll say Russell Brand had an amazing tweet where he went like, "We're 17 minutes in, and to bring up people who are getting raped by their brothers and sisters is an extraordinary and very niche topic to bring up on stage." In like that articulate way only he can say. What an extraordinary topic to bring up.
What an extraordinary. You mean because of the rape incest like exceptions?
Where he said people are getting raped by their in-laws, by their brothers and sisters.
Oh my God. I'm trying to find what he said about. I watched the debate. My conclusions: Biden is clearly too old for the job, and it's delusional to pretend otherwise. Whatever you might say about the real Donald Trump, he is one funny bastard. He's one funny bastard. He's like, I don't know. And the golf thing that they devolved into. This guy can hit a drive. He doesn't know where he is. I don't know what.
I was on Twitter already.
I don't know what he just said. He doesn't know what he just said either. And then Biden went, I don't. Like he looked in a.
Yeah.
And if you watch from 4 years ago, it's like Biden has aged even so much. Ugh.
People, what I was hearing on CNN also is Democrats are very angry at their own party now for having lied and trying to push this forward. Which for a party that's already pretty divided is not great. Last question. Who can you see anyone stepping into his shoes right now? Are you a little more familiar with stuff than
I mean, you have people that people talk about like Gavin Newsom. That's been the guy they put as like the backup Hail Mary that they throw in. One time they said Michelle Obama once. I don't know if that's real.
Yeah, she came up a lot last night.
I was gonna say on the subject, just to wrap it up, like on the subject of Israel and politics, because this episode is themed that way. Jamal Bowman, you hear about what happened? Do you know Jamal Bowman? He lost. Yeah. And I found it so interesting that it's pretty great. And I find it really interesting how people have spun that loss on his side, because they're saying how it's dark money and it's right-wingers who are conspiring and co-opting our party to get rid of people, and AIPAC pouring dark money into politics, dark money to unseat these people. And I always find that so funny that these same people who are screaming about Trump being the ultimate threat to democracy and is going to turn over our democracy and our democratic institutions are very anti-democratic when it doesn't go their way. Suddenly they when democracy works against them and the people they don't want win by legitimate means, by money that's supported for other candidates, suddenly it's dark and conspiratorial and nefarious. Right. I'm like, I thought you were all about democracy and cared so much. It's like so obvious. What a hypocrite.
And there were also all these lefty organizations that were coming in and challenging like MAGA Republicans and pro-choice. Like it happens all the time. Maybe this is a little different because it's foreign policy. I could see how like what exactly does this is it a congressman? Is it a representative?
Jamal Bowman.
Like, what does this congressman from Westchester matter to like Israel Gaza?
Well,
I guess no, it's not a local politics; it's national politics. So
no,
I guess it's a little bit different.
He's not he's a congressman.
Right,
so they vote on appropriations and money that gets sent and packages and the Iron Dome and the hostility. And it's just funny, like AIPAC supports Democrats and Republicans. And like this idea that they somehow have a stranglehold. It's like funny. It's like the reason politicians support AIPAC is because they support Israel. They don't support Israel because AIPAC makes them. Like Rashida Tlaib doesn't have an AIPAC representative who goes and visits her because she hates Israel. So like,
wait, say that again.
The reason there's this claim that like AIPAC is somehow co-opting our politics, right? And is on behalf of as a foreign agent, this like smear on AIPAC. And I'm like, no. AIPAC works.
Which by the way is like so classically anti-Semitic trope.
Of course.
That there's like a foreign agent.
And there's a million
influence
different
the
lobbyists
country.
in Washington having special interests and stuff. It's not unique to AIPAC. But the point is, politicians that support AIPAC do so because they support Israel.
Well, I mean,
they don't support Israel because AIPAC compels them to.
Is that? I mean,
in other words, why does
that's not how lobbying works. People support all kinds of things in like pharmaceuticals and oil and energy because the lobbyists are
but the NRA doesn't have AOC does not meet with the NRA. People who support gun rights meet with the NRA.
Right, but then there are people. Well, that's because AOC has made her brand anti-Israel. But there are people in the middle who might be able to go one way or the other, who might lean towards Israel because there's money there to be raised. I mean, I think that's fair to say in terms of making concessions to like how things work.
Sort of, but it would be hard pressed to say that like you don't have an inclination towards certain principles and ideas, and therefore the groups that lobby you.
I don't know if every politician's like that. I don't know if every politician has a very clear point of view on Middle Eastern policy.
All right, fair enough that there's some of that, but it's not unique to AIPAC. And the point is that a majority, I would say it's not unique. Like the sugar lobby. Unique. I'm saying the majority of politicians who have a certain platform, every politician's got their platform, got their brand, got their constituency, and therefore the lobbyists and special interests that go to lobby them legitimately and try to advocate for positions in legislation, they lobby politicians that they believe would be sympathetic to their message.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everybody's genuine in politics, but assuming nobody is, the NRA meets with people who believe in gun rights, and the pro-life lobbies meet with people who believe in protecting who are against abortion, and the pro-choice people meet with people who believe in the right of contraception and access to legal abortion. And you know what I'm saying? So it's
yes.
Are there people in the middle that get a little?
The strong argument is that all lobbies work like that, and to single out AIPAC for destroying America is.
I think both are true. I'm not saying there's not a middle ground that gets persuaded by like, hey, we can raise money for you and all that, but it would be hard pressed to fully corrupt somebody who is against Israel, and AIPAC buys them off.
I agree.
So I guess I'm just saying maybe on the margins.
In fact, I'd like to see that.
What?
I'd like to see that. I'd like to see AIPAC get like AOC elected.
All of a sudden, Tlaib's like, you know what? You know. And so like I just think that's like a really unfair smear to level at AIPAC uniquely to say if they're co-opting it. I'm like, no, AIPAC is lobbying Democrats and Republicans who are supportive of the U.S.-Israel relationship, broadly speaking. If you don't like money in politics, then you should limit the role of government in general to pass any kinds of legislation over other people, and you could lobby for all kinds of different things. But to say only AIPAC is the one that's sneaky and nefarious. It's ridiculous. If
you replace AIPAC with Jewish in any tweet you say, it's just it's
only
so
AIPAC gets the heat
on.
as opposed to many other lobbying interests and groups that are lobbying for all sorts of causes and different things. And strangely enough, AIPAC, just like Israel, gets this crazy double standard. And it's just funny that when democracy works against the squad, somehow they don't care to preserve democratic institutions. Somehow something else is going on. That's rich to me. But that wraps up the Ami's House political discussion.
Debate reaction. I'm glad I watched. I wasn't gonna watch.
Yeah.
Sarah put it on.
I love that. I love Sarah's.
We caught this historic night.
It is.
Oh, she is totally red pilled.
Yeah, right. And also just like in real time, it's super fun. It's like sports. Like you could watch the highlights, but for me, I'm just like.
Well, you had to watch this one in real time to like have that experience of like, are you seeing what I'm seeing?
I said to Razi, I'm like, get in here right now. You have to look at this. And then sits down and it's just like, let's close on the face. Ready? And I'll close on. Listen, folks, this is Ami's House. Ami's House, a podcast discussing ideas. Roll. V-Wave. We're discussing all kinds of ideas on pod. And this guy here. What's he done? Number two. There's a lot of repeats. You know what I'm saying? And what's he done? That's the kind of things we're going to do. The idea that we're going to have over $50 million raised for young working families of African-American COVIDs. And asylum seekers at the border, we're securing more jobs, more opportunity zones that we're able to create, and jobs and foreign policies of Afghanistan and pulling our troops, and our veterans are being taken care of for asylum seekers, and pharmaceutical drugs. We lowest price of pharmaceutical drugs. So folks, COVID. It's getting better, right?
Yeah. I hope Cornel West doesn't step in.
Oh my God. Yeah, he's running too, right?
That'd
Or
be
Cenk
good.
Uygur.
Yeah. That was good though. Sorry, that was pretty spot on. I gotta say.
Thanks for watching. That's Ami's house. That wraps up. Is there another debate or this is done? Is there another one scheduled?
I don't see why Trump would ever do another debate. I think he's got what he needs.
Yeah, he's just like a lot. His little. I like it. They love me. I like it. He did this like weird, like little L sound, which was kind of cracking me up. Did you notice that?
Yeah. What did you hear? I'm curious to hear what you heard.
No, he was just.
I didn't notice.
No, he would just be like, listen, a little bit, little tiny. He would be like, there's so much. I did a lot of things, and even a little thing. I have to watch it again to see what the line is, but he would say these like, and that's based on so much information. And all the sources are saying it. What?
Has his voice changed since he first came on the campaign?
There is like a more an aged version of the voice, which is more like, we got to take back this country. We got to get it back. There's no question. And what he has done,
that's pretty good.
What he has done with this guy's such a disgrace. What this guy's done is just a total disgrace. They're laughing at us. Putin's laughing at us. Kim Jong-un, China, they're laughing at us. They didn't laugh. I got along very well. With politicians. I got along very well with all the unions, the police. They support me. Not a little bit, a lot of it. They support me. And
you got the mouth. You got the bottom lip.
Yeah, that was. I owe that to Jason Scoop. Jason Scoop is another Trump impersonator, and when he did the lips, I said, "Oh, there it is." And it's soft. There's also this kind of lips thing that happens where the lips kind of come in, and so all the police, they support me. Every police officer I've ever met supports me. Even the ones that are in the even the parking meters, the meter maids support me. The meter maids, they never give me a ticket. You know why? Because they know that I'm putting money in their pockets. That's why, because I'm giving them jobs. And the border, they're coming over the border like crazy. These rapists and prisoners are coming over
mental asylums.
Mental asylums, they're loose. They're letting them loose. And I left it so great. I left the border so great. I left the border perfect. It was spotless. It was beautiful. I cleaned the poles at the border. They were beautiful. You know what he did? He took the Lysol wipes.
Good.
I cleaned it so well. It was perfect. Oh, wow. I'm really on a rant here, Michael. I left it perfect. I left Iran broke and dead as a dog, and now they got money. They have so much money, billions and trillions of dollars. And I left them completely broke and dead as a dog. Never would have happened, these things, when I was president. And that's why I don't want to be here. I want to be comfortable. I want to be laying on the beach. That's what I want to be doing. But I have to be here. I got to be here because this country's going to hell in a handbasket. And so we have to stop that from happening.
Very good.
Wow.
Maybe the best I've heard.
I think it's fresh after last night. You just have it all there. Because when you do impressions too much, you just copy yourself.
That was flow.
Yeah, and then sometimes you just kind of do the Trump kind of thing, but this is more subtle. It's more.
Try doing Gary Vee. Maybe you could do a good Gary Vee impression now.
We're gonna make our country great again. No, you hate it. That's okay. I genuinely believe that,
okay.
Right? Like
Trump, though, man.
That was flow. Right. We should just clip that whole thing.
Yeah.
All right, Mikey.
All right. Good luck to you in the wars to come. And yeah, we're gonna try to get this up immediately. Yes. So hopefully people can watch.
All right, that is Ami's house. Ami and Mike react to debate 2024, and we need to take back our country. That's what we're gonna do.